Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. Hey, you know who it is. It's the blackest hearted, blackest minded, blackest man on social media. So black you get darker just by listening. Signing black in and shining again, asking you to hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. I'm not going to delve into this whole grudge that some people have. I mean, there are those who hate Kevin Samuels. There are those who like him. I like what he is doing now by telling the gynocracy and the matriarchy that you don't get to be Lois Lane and demand Superman. Maybe Kevin has flaws. I mean, I don't know if he's estranged from one of his children or not. It's not just okay if he is from age 2, but I mean, someone's going to owe explanation if that's true. I don't know if it's true or not. And I'm not about to take a white man's word against a black man, especially when I don't know either of them in real life. But one of the things we must learn in terms of racial solidarity, and this may be one of the necessary new commandments for brotherhood, for which Professor Dr. Tiasan Johnson requested of black men to contribute. You don't take somebody else's word for it against one of your own. You don't necessarily have to take one of your own's word for it against someone else unless you know them. But you certainly don't do the opposite. Now, that's why dude may have no reason at all to just want to lie on Mr. Samuels. I don't know. What I do know is that this ain't his damn business. If anything, he should be sitting up saying, look, I know how my people talk and think. And yes, we, especially if this dude is a high value white guy amongst white guys, he should definitely be one of those saying, look, I know that we benefit from what you all have to go through. We get all sorts of things, tasks performed for us at a lower cost because of the destabilization of your family units. We use the women to soften the blow or to cushion our contact with you men. Now, that's what he needs to be doing. That sounds kind of biased on my part because I'm pretty much telling you that if he's not confessing on behalf of his people, don't listen to him. Yeah, but, you know, when somebody's constantly kicking something over and then you see someone that looks like them so much that you know they're related, even though the other person's not the same one, you don't want them telling you anything about their relative except how to be safe from them. That they're doing it, yes. Why they're doing it, if it helps. How to be safe from them, definitely. You don't really need much else from their relative, even if you're not going to blame the relative for what they did. And herein is a similar scenario. What I am going to say, though, regarding this whole Kevin Samuels, since the whole Kevin Samuels thing is that the women have been taught to not need a man. And it's okay to have that as a backup and a plan B, but they pretty much been taught to tell the men how they don't need them. Make us know that you don't need nothing from us, and we ain't no good, and we're just a pain in your behind, and you sick and tired. Make us know this. That's what they told sisters, and to a certain extent, even we men have been guilty of this, telling these things to our daughters as though it is guaranteed that a man ain't gonna stick around, which means that we believed the hype about ourselves. So, the proof that black men are not intrinsically bad lies in the fact that in reaction to all of these negative stereotypes, we wound up becoming the most willing to be married in the event that we could make a marriage work, the best stepfathers and the most involved fathers, regardless of the relationships with the mothers. Unless, of course, moms cut off all contact with the kids. That's what we did as black men. We became the opposite, either independently of the stereotypes or in response to the stereotypes. This means that when we thought we were guilty of something collectively, we as individuals made decisions and executed them to be the opposite. There's another thing I want to make known to us. These ladies got socialized to not be any good to any men or any long-term good. I remember once when I was a child, and by this point I had developed my fear of dogs. And I asked my mom, do sometimes dogs, because I was playing with some kids and there was a dog in the yard next door, and he could see us through the chain link fence. He didn't try to get at us. He wasn't aggressive. He just watched us and looked at us. And I didn't know how the dog felt. I didn't know if he felt sad because we were playing and he or she was just sitting there. I didn't know. But I asked my mom later on, can dogs become mean if you don't play with them? And she said, yes. Yes, sometimes they can become mean if you don't play with them. Or even if they aren't mean, they could be dangerous if you get too close, because maybe they think you're going to hurt them. And I said, okay, all right. So at that point, I would try to be nice to some dogs if I saw them and I didn't really know them well. But I still had the fear of them. I just figured I'm going to try to control this fear so that I can at least not cause a dog to become mean that otherwise wasn't mean. I tried. But that lasted for maybe a few months. It wasn't like I saw them every day. It wasn't like that. But you know what? One thing I'm going to tell y'all is the same thing can happen with men. Not that men must become mean per se. But one thing that can happen is that, you see, men can actually become so used to being single. See, when a man is at his most flexible in terms of learning how to be with someone, that's also when he has the least resources. He's young. Now, you want that stamina, he's got the hormones for it, he doesn't have the resources. It can seem like God himself played a cruel joke, but I'm not blaming this on God. I just understand what it can look like to a human being with our limited perception. Then again, women also must understand that when it becomes most important for them to have a man so that they can avoid shameful things like, male dogs as pets that you hope don't try to get some when the guests are there because they don't have any shame, or, toys. Oh, don't get it twisted. See, I know that some of the women of the mayonnaise mafia do this. Oh, I'm by myself and I feel safe with him. Yeah, I'm sure you do. I'm sure you feel safe with him. That's probably why you didn't get him neutered, huh? No, I kid you not. I actually lived above one in Atlanta. And the unfortunate thing is that these bad habits that the mayonnaise mafia has, men or women, we eventually take them up, men and women. So I'm not going to sit up here and say, because there was a time when sisters weren't really into toys like that. Hell, now, hey, I lived in Atlanta. I see who goes in and out of those stores, because one of those little stores was not too far from where I used to live. I had to pass by it on my way home, on my way to work and on my way home from work. And in the winter, when the sun went down early, I saw who was going in, because it wasn't too far from the traffic light. And I don't have the good luck to always come up on a green light. So I had to see them going in and out a lot of times. I was shocked, though, the one time I went in for regular run-of-the-mill birth control and saw what I could see on the TV screen, because it was attached to a camera that was looking at the back for inventory control. So what I'm saying is that, in a nutshell, men can be socialized to be by themselves. And so they get older. And having been single most of the time, they could learn to be in a relationship, but they're going to have to learn it over time and in steps. It doesn't matter who the man is. So what happens is that when these young ladies are picking Thuggo at a young age, when he's older than her, but when they're both relatively young, they don't understand. They're setting things up because there's so many of the sisters doing this. They're setting it up to where later on, the one that will know how to be in a relationship from the first day is Thuggo. And the guy that's got something to offer, well, yeah, he's less experienced. So he's going to need more time to learn which she just takes for granted because she's been in so many relationships because there's no barrier to entry for her. He's not been in them because he didn't fit the negative stereotypes. So then later on, years go by, and when these sisters sit up and say, well, you know, these so-called hood dudes, they actually know how to love you and how to be with you and everything else, they're not lying. They're telling the truth. He does know because she, not only she, but every other woman in the past that picked him because he's thuggo, taught him how. And you take that straight-laced man, so-called educated lame or the square, and even if he's not lame and he's really not that square, all he has to do is not be negatively stereotypical enough, and guess what winds up happening? He does not know all of these things. He's not able to read their minds. He doesn't know everything she means when she says something and everything she doesn't mean and what she's hiding. He can't read between the lines because he's been shut out of the lessons. So you wind up with a situation in which these women have vastly more experience than the men that they need the most, when they need them the most. And these men realize, you know what? I've been single too long. I know this happens because it has happened to many of us. It happened to me. I myself was one such man. I'd been single too long. When I first time I got married, I knew how to be a husband. I knew enough about how to be a boyfriend. I knew enough. But what I did not know how to do was to read her mind. I only knew how to plan as a pessimist. I did not know how to read her mind. And planning as a pessimist was not enough in this case. Obviously, as you all know, that one did not work out. The other thing, too, was that I was always selected. See, before that, I was always picked for these long-distance relationships. I started to hate them, but that's what always came about, long-distance relationships. When I left the Gulf Coast, all of a sudden, all the women that were interested were from my hometown. When I lived in the Gulf Coast, all the women that were interested were from out of town. I was that dude. So, looking back, I should have said, okay, Lord, you set it up to where I'm going to be single for good. I'll just plan my life around that. Doesn't matter what you put in the scriptures, what you put in my life was something different. Looking back, I probably should have said that. Not to knock what he put into the scriptures, but simply put, if he was not applying it to me, he was not applying it to me. I should have said it's not my responsibility to be someone's husband because everywhere I live, they're interested from a distance. And I'm done with that. So, that being said, I am not the only one because others actually had it worse than me. I came up somewhat mild in this case, came out of it relatively unscathed. But I gotta say this, I've had to learn at old ages certain things about how women communicate. Things that thuggo got to learn at 17. And the difference between our experiences, it was up to the ladies, and they have the right to make their choices. But what this also means is that the situation about which even they themselves will complain later was also up to them. These ladies don't get the power without the responsibility. They have the power to make the choice. They get the responsibility for the outcomes and for the environment. So that the environment that we have is shaped by them. It's not shaped by us men. Not in the West. We can talk all day about how it should be. We were not allowed to shape it, and we didn't have that power, and so we didn't shape it. So it's not on us. They had the power. Great. Now they got the responsibility. And so I'm not recording this in order to knock them because they've had preferences. But I am telling you that I openly disrespect their preferences in the gynocracy and the matriarchy that is niggistan because, well, those preferences are just too niggerish. They're hybristophilic, low level. They're just like that. So I am recording this, though, to tell you that when you see a scenario in which you are involved with someone and you realize you're not just learning, when she treats you like you're not just learning her, you're learning about women in general, it's because you are, But that's not your fault. That's what that's about. What that means in a nutshell is she's already learned men. And you're still learning women in general. And that's why it is that she's saying to you, or she's surprised that you actually took her at a word when she said something instead of, reading between the lines, because she's used to men that were able to read between the lines because she's used to men that other women trained for her. And you have not been through enough other women for them to train you for her, and she's shocked. You were socialized to live by yourself through no fault of your own. Just know what that is and do not feel any guilt or any blame about it. You're not inadequate because of your lack of experience when they were busy weeding you out because of the negative stereotypes you didn't fit when you were younger. Yeah, I'm not saying that there's nothing about you men that needs fixing. I'm saying it doesn't hold a candle to the flaws in them that need fixing because they done been through too doggone many. That's what I'm saying. I hope that this is a benefit, and I hope this removes a weight off of your shoulders, gentlemen. Hopefully one day this will not be necessary anymore, but until then, I hope it helps you. Thank you for listening. The blackest hearted, blackest minded, blackest man, signing black out again. Assalamu alaikum, and black, heterosexual, non-select male power just because they don't like it. And unapologetically, black patriarchy until extinction or judgment day.